All right, this is where the magic happens, or in my case, does not happen, because this thing, again, in the front end, it needs a lot. All right, so this is a really, I guess, a really iconic engine. This is the famous 4G63 4-cylinder, 2-liter turbocharged Mitsubishi engine. Some people, if you know what you're doing, which is not me, that you can mod these things out. They can go just fast as ever, and yeah, this one being a front wheel drive only, probably can only handle so much before you start getting some really bad wheel skip, but still really fun engine that if you know what you're doing, a million different mods and tuning you can do to this thing. So pretty cool to get it, just because it's, you know, it's like meeting an old hero. I've owned 3 previous DSMs, but I've never had one with this engine in it. They've always been the naturally aspirated version, so I'm really excited about that. It's got an intercooler down here. It definitely looks like they hit something at some point. So that's the intercooler grill, and or the mesh that kind of protects it, and I can't tell, it looks like the intercooler might not be damaged, but it's really hard to tell. I haven't really gotten in and really looked closely. The front body kit is cracked. It looks like, ooh, they've had to repair it. That's split almost all the way to the bottom, and then over here, same thing. It's attached. It's kind of hard to see, but if you get under there, it's kind of attached by wire, like just pieces of wire twisted. So the classic repair to get something just hanging. So the bumpers really aren't too bad. You probably pay more for shipping than you do the bumper sometimes. I've seen them as cheap as $150 with a black primer, and you could probably almost get away with that considering how rough the real paint is. This is where you can see the paint is not very clean from whoever did it. It's very rough, it's split, it's cracked. Yeah. Headlights, obviously, very hazy. Replace those at some point. I could try the headlight cleaner, but frankly, like, probably just replace them. It looks like they've already been swapped once. I don't think that's the original style. So someone might have already replaced them once, but either way, again, probably could be replaced. I might try the quick cleaner solution where you spray it and clean and buff it out, but my experience with those is it's kind of a temporary medium fix at best. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. This tire is almost flat. So I put some air in it a couple days ago, you know, and it's low again, so woo. If I'm going to replace the rims, I'm probably replacing the tires. Anyhow, let's see, interior of the engine. I believe they disconnected the washer fluid reservoir because I don't see the sending line anywhere, unless it's hidden right in front of my face. You can see that someone, I don't know, there's a piece of metal there, but normally you'd see a line coming out on one of the sides. Again, haven't investigated fully, but you know, obviously little stuff. This should probably be attached somewhere. This is not the original antifreeze container, and I don't know why they took that out. And if you look in here, you can actually see a tube, and I think this is like the overflow for the antifreeze. I'm not sure. You can also see that wire down in there. Oh boy. Here's the turbo. I don't really know enough about turbos to know if this is the original or not, or if they've replaced it. I took off so there's a cover that would normally cover up the spark plugs there, and I took that off. Because it was a little bent, and oil had actually spilled in there, so I'm going to clean that out. Whoever owned it before me was filling it with oil, and they would spill it, and since the cover didn't sit flushly on here, even if it did, it'd probably still seep in, but you know, we don't want that. Let's see. This is part of the AC, so I don't think I have air conditioning because, you know, that right there should be attached to something. Power steering was really low. I filled it. We're gonna wait and see if it drips or drains anywhere. I haven't seen any mysterious puddles for it yet, so you know, that could be good news. Timing belt, if you know anything about these engines, it's that the timing belt has to be changed before it breaks because it's an interference engine. If you don't change it in time, the valves collide with the pistons. The valves enter the piston chamber, and the pistons will hit them if it's not timed properly. So not only does it need to be replaced before it breaks, it needs to be perfectly timed before you restart it. So you got to find a qualified mechanic who knows how to do that, because I am not that guy. Various other things. Obviously, the big thing is the head gasket is gone. If you run this thing for more than a couple seconds, it just literally dumps oil on the ground. So I try not to leave it running for more than 30 seconds to a minute at a time. It seems like you get a few moments before it builds up pressure and gets up to temperature where it won't leak, and then it just starts to drip. I always make sure it's got oil. Look around underneath, it looks a little beat up, so the oil pan's a little dented, so if they're taking everything else apart to fix it, I might have them just take that apart too. I could change the oil pan myself. We'll see. We'll see how, if they're already under there, it might be just easier for them to do it. So I'm taking it to a place here in town. Alternator is putting out 11 something, and that's not enough. So while the car starts and is charging, it's, if your battery's below 12, you're definitely not getting your charge, and so that's at like 11.5, I think. So I'm not getting a full charge. Here you can see the original paint color again. Whoever painted it, obviously they tried to do the interior of the engine the best they could. Some people just skip it because it's hard to, paint the interior of the engine bay. But this person at least tried. Although some of that might be like a spray paint. It's hard to tell how they went about it. So yeah, so I'm still discovering new things every day that's wrong with this. Man, there's just oil everywhere. But again, that is it. So anyhow, this is my first impressions and first look at the new, to me, car, which needs a little bit of everything. Oh man, that's first little bit of rust is kind of right there where the battery is. So I don't know if there was some corrosion or why that looks so bad compared to everything else, but I'm sure there's a reason. Oh yeah, fan blade melted and broken, suggesting that it might have gotten really hot, or maybe hot oil got on it. I don't know. But if it got hot enough to melt a plastic fan blade, I almost get concerned that it gets so hot that it cracked something, and we'll see. Oh, it idles really high. So it idles about 3,000 RPMs when I was, only when it's not in gear. If you put it in gear, it drops, but at a neutral idle, it seems to want to idle really high. I adjusted the idle a little bit just to see what it did, and it's almost all the way in, and it dropped to about 2,000. And I looked on some forums, and some people said that's actually normal for these, or at least common, to idle high at first, and once it warms up to drop down. But I'm not going to take their word for it. We'll mention that to the mechanic who's going to dig into it. It's hard finding people these days who can work on them. 20 years ago, a lot of shops would work on these. In 2021, finding a mechanic who feels comfortable working on these is a lot harder. So I'm lucky that there's someone here in town. I'm taking it to Jay's Garage. A lot of good stuff about that guy and his business. So hopefully that's going to turn out great. So anyhow, that is, I'm sure I'm forgetting like dozens of things, or maybe people who really know cars are just looking at this right now and saying, oh my gosh, what about that? What about that? They can see stuff that's not connected. There's a lot of stuff that should have something, attached to it. A lot of things that looks like there's bolts that are supposed to be threaded into stuff that aren't, and hard to say exactly what, because again, this is kind of a newer engine to me. So, I can definitely see they've done some things under there. So anyhow, that is my car, and I'll say, despite all these problems, I am so excited for it. I absolutely love this thing. It is a giant project, and I can't wait to spend the next probably couple years trying to figure it all out.